Make your next vacation unforgettable. On Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Star of the Seas. It's everything you've loved about every family vacation you've ever been on, with mind-blowing thrills at the largest water park at sea, 7 onboard pools for every level of chill, more than 40 ways to dine and drink, and even more to enjoy at our award-winning private island, Perfect Day at Coco Cay. This is the new Star of the Seas. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
It's Wednesday, Adams. I see you're trying to distract yourself from your own banal thoughts. Let me help. Here's a recording thing made of my latest root canal.
Wednesday, Season 2, begins August 6th, only on Netflix.
Travis?
Yes.
What's going on this week?
Well, a major snack manufacturer in the UK got hit by ransomware.
And I care why.
Well, it's more about the group behind it, the Conti ransomware group, which has been on a bit of a spree of late.
Conti, like the Italian singer Conti?
Conti.
Yeah.
That's just nuts. Oh, that was one of the snacks.
Peanut, hazelnut, cashew nut, macadamia nut. That was the one that was sent her into going crazy. She said, "You stop naming nuts."
So does that mean everybody in England is snack free right now?
Kind of. It's not obviously critical infrastructure, but it's a good example of how a single company getting taken out by a ransomware attack can lead to these supply chain issues.
Sweet.
So you have grocery stores in the UK that are now having supply issues. Logistics and shipping companies are kind of having to sit and wait until they get it ironed out. It's just causing a ripple effect.
So in other words, snacks have been smacked.
Indeed.
Candy Crush. What this tells me is what we kind of already have been saying for a while, which is that ransomware is probably alive and well in 2022.
Most definitely. A survey just came out about 2021 saying that most companies that got hit with ransomware opted to pay.
That's what happens when you let hackers feed off of you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but also, I mean, there's a whole burgeoning sector in development right now of companies that are specifically there to help pay ransom, right? Isn't that kind of happening?
Absolutely.
Right now?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that, Adam?
Well, you have interesting developments as well with governments, because you have a lot of governments and law enforcement agencies that are moving toward the concept that it would become illegal to pay ransomware because you're supporting criminal activity. But what do you do when you're a company? Let's say, for instance, you're a healthcare organization.
Yeah.
And in a matter of hours, you've been reduced to pencil and paper.
And meanwhile, you have patients who are most likely, at least have some patients who are critical and need attention now, and you need to know what's going on with them.
Well, there's actually been litigation filed, I believe, in the case of someone who died as a result of a hospital being hit with ransomware and delaying payment.
Well, that takes us back to this new idea of killware, any kind of hack that leads to a fatality. I'm just wondering if it, I'm asking the Adam who has a JD, got to ask you a question, lawyer Adam. Is that defensible, that to make paying a ransom illegal in the service of keeping your business afloat? Would that float in court? I don't know, man. I think it shouldn't be illegal. That's me. Let's take a straw vote. I don't think it should be illegal to pay a ransom if your company's on the line. Travis, what do you think?
I'd agree with that.
Adam?
I concur.
Yeah.
But that being said, there is an argument to be made that if you continue to pay, they will continue to prey on innocent victims. And what's worse is that in many cases, this money is going toward what's deemed by many governments to be terrorist-related activity.
Yeah, well, that's the slippery slope. Yeah, that's the part of the iceberg you don't see.
Right.
There's also another dimension to it as well that I thought was interesting. The Kronos Group, which makes workforce management software, They got hit with ransomware back in December 2021, and they're actually getting hit with lawsuits from their clients because they were taken offline. So Tesla, Pepsi, New York Transit workers are all suing them because they're losing productivity because they aren't able to fulfill their wage reporting.
And then meanwhile, I just have this vision of Paolo Conti, the singer, singing, "It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful, my be with my baby." I mean, it's just, I apologize to anyone who likes Paolo Conte. But for me, you have these hackers out there that are doing whatever the hell they want, kind of Mad Max style, but online. And there's no answer to them yet. Nothing. I can't, someone give me some good news about this. What, in the Tell Me Something Good department, what's happening to stem the tide of all these ransomware attacks and, the business around it and people paying up, all that? Is there any good news?
Well, law enforcement has become far more active than before, then far more aggressive than before. You do see more prosecutions. We've actually seen cases also where law enforcement has gone in and found a way to claw back money that was taken as a result of ransomware attacks.
That's fascinating.
But at the same point, it's still like a trickle compared to the tsunami of ransomware attacks and the kind of money that's been flowing toward the hacker community.
Yeah.
But the problem for the good guys is that this thing works for the bad guys. It really works.
Yeah, that's true.
It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. Good luck, my baby. It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. I dream of you. Chips.
Welcome to What the Hack, a show about hackers, scammers, and the people they go after. I'm Adam Levin, Baron of the Backup, Prince of the Password, Count of the Data Compromise, and Earl of Endpoint Security.
Whoa. I'm Beau, and I got nothing to add to that.
And I'm Travis, Cyber Stable Boy.
Nay.
This episode is brought to you by the world's first reposado from Tequila Herradura. Made with slow-cooked, hand-harvested agave sealed into oak barrels and aged 11 months. Before being enjoyed in your glass. Experience the world's first reposado, Tequila Herradura. Please drink responsibly. Responsibility.org. Tequila Herradura. 40% alcohol by volume. Imported by Brown-Forman, Louisville, Kentucky. Herradura is a registered trademark. Copyright 2025 Brown-Forman Corporation.
Hey, it's Sydney Sweeney. I'm not here to tell you to buy American Eagle jeans. And I definitely won't say that they're the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Or that they make your butt look amazing. Why would I need to do that? But if you said that you want to buy the jeans, I'm not going to stop you. But just so we're clear, this is not me telling you to buy American Eagle jeans.
Sydney Sweeney, Hasbro jeans.
You see what I did there, right?
Adam, welcome.
Great to meet you.
So what can you tell us about yourself?
So I live in central Ohio area. We're currently under a few inches of snow. I've lived here most of my life. And
what do you do, Adam? What do you do in Ohio?
Well, other than shoveling snow, I work for a company that does IT services for other companies. So companies that normally would be too small or too spread out to have their own IT department might hire my company to come in and basically be their IT. We integrate a lot more tightly than a lot of companies in similar types of fields. But it gives me the opportunity to be both an outside consultant, but also kind of an inside person at these companies and have that access.
One thing I think is always sort of fascinating about IT workers, or just the IT industry in general, is that people come from so many different backgrounds. How did you get involved?
I'm actually a second-generation nerd. My parents both were computer engineers, programmers. My mother finished up her career being flown around the world by a major petroleum company to teach employees of the company how to use her back-end management system that she'd written for them. My father actually worked on some of the first bank computer systems that Chase Manhattan at the time built. So
now with the little cards with the holes in it, or was it?
Oh yeah, full punch cards, tape. I have very vivid memories of, as a young boy, wrapping up our newspaper recycling with discarded magnetic backup tape.
Amazing.
Dad would bring it home, and we would use it to tie up the recycling.
I remember those.
Amazing.
Do you find that a lot of the IT people that you're communicating with that are in-house are reaching the point of being overwhelmed?
Oh, I think they were there 5-10 years ago. I have a whole separate talk that I give to clients and business communities about, look, when IT started, when it started existing for small businesses, unless you were Chase Manhattan, late 90s, early 2000s, most companies started getting like the little gray boxes in and start using them for their banking or whatever. But it was no big deal. If the floppy drive died on the computer and it took the computer repairman a week to get out there, it didn't matter because you still had all the paper copies. Everything was good. And through the 2000s and the 2010s, more and more processes have gone onto the computer. And so we're no longer at a situation where if the computer goes down, you can still do anything. But most company owners, I think, are still in that mindset of, if the computer's broken, I can still do it the paper way.
You are providing to these companies the cybersecurity that they can't possibly have on their own, and testing and making sure that they're okay. I'm wondering, in your work, there's no way that you haven't spoken to some hackers in your day and some scammers. So are there modalities they use that are sticky, that get people to take an action? Like for me, I think that I've been gotten like once or twice in the past 12 months by something where I was like, oh, and I went for it, and then I caught myself, but it was still, it was a good, very good lure they sent my way. And I consider myself a trout, not a bass, like not the easiest fish to catch, but like, so what's out there, and what is there such a thing as a fish that's smart enough not to get caught?
I mean, I've been caught.
Yeah.
I've been caught to the point where I put credentials in and had to backpedal really quickly and rotate some things.
Yeah.
Just because I wasn't, I was distracted. That's what they're counting on. It's a volume thing. And I think there is a misconception that every scam starts with, dear friend, kindly run the attached file so that I can give you $1 million.
Yeah. Also, we like to talk about on the show the fact that, we all have day jobs, whatever the day job may be, but that for a hacker or a scammer, we are their day job.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
we are Legion, and they're like throwing gill nets into like the sea of us.
Yeah, I mean, it is a numbers game. It has never been cheaper or easier for them to use it as a numbers game, with the way that these software packages to spread these scams and the malware and things like that have been commercialized.
Okay, now let's put a pin in that. What our listeners aren't all going to know what those software packages are. Are you saying that criminals have their own software?
Criminals have their own software industries.
Yeah,
they're the groups.
I knew the answer to that. I just wanted to.
I know you.
I still think it's. You mean to say
just showing off, Beau?
Oh my gosh, my mind is blown. Me showing off. Hey.
And by the way, for those of our listeners who are still trying to figure out what the heck the word modality means.
Oh, come on.
You could say tactic,
fashion,
phraseologies, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not an IT security professional, which I suspect most people in the world aren't.
Yeah.
In about 7 or 8 years ago, a bunch of the better ransomware hackers and software developers realized that they could make more money selling the software that they wrote to do the hacks than actually doing the hacking. So if you know the right people or the wrong people, and you go on the dark web, you can pay some Bitcoins and you can have your own little software package that is very easy. I've seen some screenshots. It's very user friendly. It'll spin up the ransom website for you. It'll help you create the applications to send out. It'll help you with templates to send emails to try and lure people in. They have tech support. They even have margin-based pricing for scam groups that are too poor to afford the upfront cost. So it's ransomware-as-a-service. They just pay a percentage of their take upstream, and off you go.
I think one of the weirdest things I've seen from that are ransomware gangs on the dark web doing sales pitches for their software.
Oh, I hear one coming now.
Hello, I have for you a wonderful turnkey package for you to own your own company without owning your own company.
MLM in the world of scams. It's very meta.
Man, wait. So this is the thing where Adam. I know he does this on the weekends because he's a little short on money these days. He's been working for this ransom-as-a-service company where he just helps people get the Bitcoin where it's going and stuff. Have you been doing pretty well with that, right, Adam?
Well, you paid me a lot last month, so therefore, yes, it works.
That was Travis, actually. I had nothing to do with it.
Okay. Well, so lest we digress.
Yes.
So Adam, Travis actually introduced you to us. So how did you and Travis meet?
Yes. And is there a scam?
Well, I mean, I guess technically there was a scam. So I like several million of the rest of us. I'm a Redditor, and I've actually been following some scam rings on Reddit for a while. If you've seen those lovely scammy posts with mugs and shirts drop shipped with ripped off art graphics, that kind of thing. I've been following them for a while, so they were kind of an interesting side trip for me, and ended up in our scams. And then I saw the post that you had put up asking about people who are interested in coming on. I thought, it could be a fun conversation to have.
See, Beau, someone reads our posts.
Oh, Travis, you did it. Now, Travis,
if they can just rate us. No, anyway.
Oh, come on. Leave them alone for a second. Travis, now, I know you've been looking around Reddit for a long time, and I don't go in there anymore because they all throw stuff at me and they hate me on Reddit. But it's not true. I just don't really understand Reddit because I'm not a digital native. As you can see, I'm 85 years old, and last time I was around a campfire was with Moses in the burning bush. But
you're still annoying, so therefore that's good.
But I would say,
Reddit is very much its own.
Our guest Adam just nodded that I was annoying. Now I'm really going to just bury my head.
I was going to say being annoying doesn't disqualify you from being on Reddit, from what I can tell.
Finding me annoying makes you our friend.
No, but also, just so you know, Adam, Beau is the Barneys of interviewing, which is why use one word when you can use 30? So anyway.
And one of them will be modalities.
Modalities.
So
I bet you that Adam uses the word modalities when he's on Reddit with people who are interested in scams. Come on, Adam. True or false?
It might even be in one of my PowerPoints. I'm not going to disclose that.
Bang!
Really?
Ha-ha. In your face, Levin.
Ah, well.
She's made up her mind to live pretty smart. Learn to budget responsibly right from the start. She spends a little less and puts more into savings. Keeps her blood pressure low and credit score raises. She's cutting debt right out of her life. She tracks her cash flow on a spreadsheet at night.
Boring money moves make kinda lame songs, but they sound pretty sweet to your wallet. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865.
Una silla de masajes puede parecer extravagante. 8 configuraciones diferentes, intensidad ajustable, además es calefaccionado. Y se siente tan bien. Sí, una silla de masajes puede parecer extravagante. Y 2, bueno, aún más. Pero cuando esas sillas de masajes vienen con un auto, se vuelven bastante prácticas. El nuevo Volkswagen Tiguan 2025 con funciones premium como los asientos delanteros con masaje disponibles. Solo parece extravagante.
So you have a story, as I understand it, that comes by way of the same gang that hit the Colonial Pipeline, or at least the same ransomware-as-a-service.
Yes, Darkside. So, and I didn't make the connection until quite a while afterwards. Actually, I was reviewing the material, but the gang that attacked the Colonial Pipeline company and caused a lot of panic for a few weeks, called Darkside, which was one of the companies that is using that software, or Ransomware-as-a-Service. They didn't write that software; they bought it from another company. But they were the ones that were weaponizing it.
Colonial Pipeline paid nearly $5 million in ransom to hackers who infiltrated their system, which led to the shutdown. That sparking panic buying and massive outages.
So about a month before the Colonial Pipeline's attack, we had a client who themselves suffered a ransomware breach, which is actually fairly rare for my company to have clients with that because of the software that we mandate. But this company had decided that they were going to have this cluster of servers in a cloud provider, and they didn't want to pay us to manage those servers. They were going to take care of them themselves.
Those were cloud servers that were not configured by. Then they did it themselves.
Right, it was their servers, and this is a large company. They have multiple sub companies. I don't know how many people they have. They have 5 or 6 large sub companies that we're providing support for. It's at least a few hundred employees. So not a small organization. They have their own internal IT department that has, I think, 4 or 5 full-time guys. They're not by any stretch of the imagination amateurs at IT.
Did they not opt to have you fully secure their systems out of budget concerns, or were they just being cocky? Or
we're being cheap.
Okay.
We're not cheap. We don't pretend to be cheap, but we do it right. They decided that they didn't want to pay us to manage those because they had a good lead on it. They knew what was going on. So anyway, this company, we'll call them Spacely Sprockets.
Galaxy, eh? I'll show Spacely I know how to handle big wheels. I'll get the contract signed and get back before Janie even misses me.
And hope you don't get a copyright strike or whatever the trademark version of that is. They had these cloud servers. There were 5 servers. There was a domain controller, a terminal server, a couple of file servers, and an application server. We didn't have any real visibility onto these machines. We didn't have our management agents on them. We couldn't connect to them. They were just kind of off in their own little world. We knew of their existence, but that was basically it. I was actually on call the morning this all started, so conveniently. I fired up my computer, 7 o'clock in the morning, went through, was checking through tickets, got an alert from our endpoint protection software, antivirus software, on one of our servers that said, hey, it's trapped something. Those are just notification alerts. We don't have to do anything because the software cleans it up for us. It's just a heads up.
And about how many of those do you get per day? Is that a sort of all hands on deck when that happens, or do you just see hundreds or thousands coming through?
No, we don't actually get alerts on the majority of them.
Mm-hmm.
This one only popped up an alert because it was coming from another device on the network rather than coming from like a file or something, external.
So the call was coming from inside the house, I think is
so it still wasn't anything that we had to take any action on. So it was more of a, hey, just a heads up kind of thing. I saw them. I was looking through some other tickets. Got right after the phone lines went up, I got a phone call from the internal IT person, or one of the internal IT people at the Spacely Sprockets here, and they said, "Hey, we've had an attack on one of our servers in this hosted farm. We just want to make sure that it gets cleaned up. Call me back, and we'll see if you can help." So I'm looking at that. I went back and I looked at the other tickets that had come in from our endpoint, and I started to see 2, 3, 4, 5 more tickets that popped up from the endpoints. Not saying that there had been an infection, but that it had blocked an infection.
So Adam, let me so 2 things. One, if you could explain to our listeners what endpoint means. And the second thing is if you could also say what kind of vulnerable information would be on those servers that could be used by the bad guys or at least blocked.
Yeah, so the endpoint in nerd means computer. So that means a desktop computer on, in somebody's office, or a server in a server room. In this case, these were all servers because that's what the other servers could talk to.
Could it also be a smartphone?
It could be anything. I mean, any kind of device that exists on a network is technically an end point, literally a point where the network ends. When you hear someone talk about endpoint protection, that's just an antivirus that reports centrally. So instead of me having to walk around and check 100 computers to see if they had any viruses, I can just check one portal. So I was getting these notifications from these antiviruses, and the servers that are reporting in are more general purpose servers. So they're domain controllers that handle people's usernames and passwords, logons, files that the company has, for their internal applications and the products that they make.
So pretty sensitive information, it sounds like.
Yeah, database servers. There were actually a few desktop computers that had sent notifications, and mostly in the IT department because of the permissions that they had. But we got a few of those, and you could see when you started to look at where the links were, you could see that this was coming from this one hosted location and just attempting to push its way across the network. And luckily, every site that hosted location was connected to had that antivirus software on it. So it wasn't really able to spread outside of that. But it completely took over that hosted environment, as well as a few of the servers that were not in the environment but had shares, so files that were available to servers that were in the environment. The contents of those file shares got encrypted. So this was a ransomware attack. So
wow. So you were like, now you're all alarmed.
Yeah. So at that point, I hit the big red button. I got a hold of our technical boss guy, as well as a couple of the other senior engineers and our network engineer, and I got everybody on a call and said, "Hey, bad things have happened, and we need to make sure that we get it shut down."
Well, with ransomware gangs, I mean, obviously they once they encrypt your files, their next step is to let you know that they've done it to make their demand. So how did you find out about that?
The traditional way of getting that ransom is in a README, a text file that's usually left in the folder with the files that have been encrypted. And inside it'll say, "Ha ha ha, you've been encrypted. We have all of your files. You have to pay us this amount at this place." And in this case, it gave an address, an Onion site on the Tor network.
So what's an Onion site, just for the...
So, yeah.
But they don't even know what the Tor network is. So
and is the Tor network a tourist spot or something?
No. All right, so first an Onion site. Go ahead.
So, well, I think probably a Tor network is going to be the easier thing to explain first.
Well, that is easier, yeah.
Tor network, yeah. So the Tor network is a distributed network that runs on the internet, but is not accessible from a normal browser. It's used by dissidents and people who are working in countries that have governments that are not necessarily the most friendly to freedom of speech. It's used by people who are trying to, say, anonymously leak data to a newspaper.
It's used by coders. WikiLeaks people used it. Edward Snowden used it.
It's how the marketplaces for all of this ransomware-as-a-service gets sold. It's a fairly, because of the design of the network, it's almost impossible to tell what computer or where the computer is that's on the other side of the connection.
And the people on it range from Superman to the worst people on Earth.
Literally the worst people on Earth. Yeah, it also is full of, as a place that's completely unregulated and anonymous, full of terrible, terrible things. And I don't suggest that you go there without a lot of protection.
Not a vacation spot.
No. It's a Here Be Dragons kind of thing. An Onion site is a website that is only accessible on the Tor network. It's called an Onion site because it ends in .onion. Ends in .onion because Tor is built on layers of protection. So the traditional way of getting that ransom is in a README, a text file that's usually left in the folder. So this is the ransom file that was in every folder that had encrypted files.
Your computers and servers are encrypted, backups are deleted. We use strong encryption algorithms so you cannot decrypt your data. But you can restore everything by purchasing a special program from us, Universal Decryptor. This program will restore all your network. Follow your instructions below, and you will recover all your data.
All right, so you got this thing.
Tiny little aside. There have been ransomware packages that have been the decryptor has been released for, so that anybody can unencrypt their files if they got attacked by it. And there was at least one case where a ransomware group released an unencryptor for another ransomware group. And then they released it like, hey, we're being really helpful to help you unencrypt your files. And what it would do is it would unencrypt the files and then re-encrypt them with the new ransomware group's encryption algorithm.
Sneaky.
And then, yeah, I thought that was very
entrepreneurial hackerism.
Very
I
impressive.
love it.
Clever.
Yeah. So I went to the website. So the modern way that these are working is they give you a website on Tor that you go to, and it lists the ransom, and then it gives you ways to pay with various cryptocurrencies. And then there is a chat box that you can type into, just like every other good company. They have customer support, and you can send them messages if you're having a technical problem with paying or you have a question, that kind of thing. In this case, in the process, once I'd identified what ransomware variant this was, I did some research to see if there was already an unencryptor available, and there wasn't. It was very new. But what I did see was that they were also stealing data in the process of encrypting files, which is typical now. It's a little less typical then.
Double extortion.
Yeah. And ironically, that's actually a direct response of the fact that because of ransomware attacks, companies have gotten much better about having backups, because it got
So they have the backup and they're like, well, we have it already. And they're like, that's cool. We're selling it.
We're going to sell your data if you don't pay up. We don't care if you have a backup.
But then they pay up, Adam, and they sell it anyway.
Well, they promise not to. Pinky promise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the
pinky promise.
Yeah, I love it in the chat support. It says, "We didn't download data. We encrypted all you network. It can help you decrypt it back."
Yeah, they're very helpful.
I just want to show them my hands and be like, look, no pinkies. I have no pinkies.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the things that I did was I went and I contacted their chat support, which actually got back to me faster than the majority of cable companies I've had to deal with.
Of course.
And they confirmed air quotes that they hadn't stolen any data, which we didn't really believe, but was the best that we could do. In the meantime, we were working on shutting down their links between the different network segments for the company, so that if there were any machines that were still infected, it couldn't spread further. We were killing machines and rolling them back with backups and that kind of thing. And this may surprise you that our client decided that they were going to go ahead and have us monitor and install antivirus on all of their computers across their networks, coincidentally, right after this happened. This particular attack, this particular group was asking for was $9 million US dollars, in, I believe, Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Was this anywhere near a realistic number for this company?
So this is a targeted attack. This is part of what makes this fun for me, or more interesting than your normal attack. This was a targeted attack. That was almost exactly 5% of their annual revenue as listed in public resources.
These guys are like, the hackers have become financial analysts these days.
They know how much they can squeeze you by for. And the executable, the program that it would try to run to actually create the encryption and reinfect the machine was named, it was basically Sprocket's encryptor.exe. So there was no question that this was a targeted attack. It kind of is a two-phase setup. So they send out, we're pretty sure it was a bad link on a website somebody clicked on and ran a program. infected a machine. They spread those out by the thousands and then thousands and the thousands.
Do you have any
thousands.
idea what kind of site it was where that bad link was?
No, it's tough to tell. We were never able to identify the exact machine. We are pretty sure it's one of the machines on that server cluster, because if it had come in somewhere else, it would have gotten smacked by the
I was just wondering if we could narrow down on the modality. But
the modality. Oh, the modality of the attack vector.
Adam, did this the company that you were consulting with, did they have cyber liability insurance?
They did or do. I suppose
Was it
still
enough?
Well, they didn't pay. They didn't pay.
They didn't pay their insurance premium, or they didn't.
No, they didn't pay the ransom. They didn't pay the ransom. So while I was talking to the ransomers, we were able to revert everything. None of the machines that had our antivirus on it got taken down, so we didn't have to worry about those machines. The machines that were in this hosted cluster had backup that was adequately protected, so they didn't get the backup too. They were able to roll that back, and they think they only lost a few hours worth of work. Looking at the logs of when things started to kind of fire up, as I did the after action investigation, it looked like it kicked off around 2:30 a.m. Eastern time, and the fact that it hadn't spread any farther. I mean, if they hadn't had adequate protection on the majority of their machines, they would have been down, period. Like full down, not producing anything across 5 companies, across a few hundred employees.
It kind of sounds like a satisfying "I told you so" for them.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that common 2:30 a.m.? Because it does sort of coincide with about post coffee hour in Moscow.
I had kind of thought about that a little bit. I think it's just a good time of it's late enough that California is asleep, but it's early enough that the early birds in New York aren't, or are still asleep rather. So the majority, so it's going to be the overnight crew. Probably after they've had their 3rd or 4th coffee, they're not really paying as much attention.
It's just a good open time to get in there.
Yeah.
So if it was originally instigated by a click on a website or email or what have you, how did it propagate from there?
So from the first machine, from the point where it was able to penetrate into their network, the first thing it does is it calls home. It says, "Hey, I am on this network. Here's all the information that I can see from my little privileged place." To get to that little privileged place on that PC, once the application was running, program was running on the computer. Most programs run in an environment where they don't have what's called elevation. They're not an administrator, so they can only kind of see normal files, do with normal files. So once it was running in that space, it used a flaw, bug in Windows, probably a combination of things to gain elevation, become an administrator, and at that point, it had access to that computer. From that point, it looked in the computer to see who had logged in recently, and it found an administrator. Very common in companies where the domain administrator, who is the root user, the boss of all bosses who can do everything on the network, ends up also being the same guy that comes around and installs your software. So it found that one of those types of users had logged on recently, and it stole what's called a hash, which is fried potatoes on a griddle. No, the wrong hash. It's a
unfair.
Is that with pastrami or corn?
Either way, it's a type of representation of your password. It's not your password. It's not kittycat123. It's a long string of numbers that kind of represents it.
So it's like an algorithm, right? It turns it.
Yeah, it's doing a bunch of math that creates this number that you can't easily turn back into kittycat123.
But hashes can be cracked.
Hashes can be cracked, but they can also just be passed off. So the way that Windows authentication works on a network in most situations by default, malicious software like this can just literally take that file, make a couple of changes to it, send a special commands to the server and say, "Hey, I'm this guy. Here's this password. I've already hashed it for you."
And they're in.
And they're in. And
Bang.
That's what they did. And then from there, they jumped onto the server. And from there, they hit everything else.
And so by the time you discovered it, it was a done deal?
Yeah. So the first thing that did, and actually they were in the network about, from what I can tell, They were in the network about 2 to 4 weeks before the attack actually happened. So in that period, they're looking across the network to see what they can find. They're figuring out what this company is, how much the money they're worth, what their contacts are, to try and basically decide how they want to squeeze them, how hard they want to squeeze them. So that would have been when they found the company's name and how much revenue it was. Figured out, hey, this is a $9 million company. If they get into Jan's tax service with 2 employees as a part-time job, then they're still going to encrypt Jan, but they may only ask for $20K because they know that that's all she can afford.
No, so it's important for people to understand that when you're dealing with hackers on many levels, these are very smart, sophisticated, persistent people.
Absolutely. And there are for every person, there is a scammer. There are scams that are literally, hi, I'm the prince of Nigeria. I'm going to give you $1 million. That are, to you and I would say, oh, this is an obvious scam. To most people, they would say, oh, this is an obvious scam. But there are people who will fall for that. There are also people who would trick us. There are people who stole millions and millions of dollars from banks by pretending that they were major investors in other companies and carried on a scam for months. There are plenty of scammers in the world to fit every niche in the ecosystem.
After there was a decision made to not pay the money and the systems were secured, were you still communicating with the ransomers at that point, or no?
So we didn't tell them that we weren't going to pay them.
And you're talking to them, or how are you in communicating?
It's chat support on the website.
Gotcha. It's all via chat.
Website. It's via chat. Yeah.
Did they use avatars or?
They didn't, but it was. I actually looked at the visible source code for the website. They were using a commercial chat engine package. Probably didn't pay for it. I'm guessing they probably didn't pay for it.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So you're chatting with them and
yeah. So they gave me assurances that they hadn't stolen any files. Whatever. Not sure I believe them. So we did all the cleanup. Right. Fingers crossed. So after the initial cleanup, we can tell we've got now antivirus on all of their machines across their entire network. We can see there's no active infections. So at that point, I started looking to see if there was any attacked files that we had missed. So we wrote a couple of little programs that we were able to run across the network and look for files of that type. We found a couple of machines that had files on them that had been encrypted not because that machine had a virus on it, but because those files were visible to another machine that had a virus on it. So even across the network, it was attacking files. Those weren't a big deal. Whatever, we got those taken care of. The interesting coda to me was, so as part of this, we also brought in a managed threat response company. So this is a company that basically comes in these situations, and they have super crazy investigative software and guys with 15 initials after their names that, really are experts in this type of a field. And they just go to town on the network to make sure that these guys aren't lurking in it anywhere.
I assume those guys are not a cheap date.
No, none of this was a cheap date for the client, that's for sure. But they definitely were not cheap, but worth it, because the alternative is erase all of your computers and start from scratch everywhere, and because you don't know if they're in or not.
This is like, I don't know if you remember Midas Mufflers, but they had a great commercial where the guy would say, pay me now or pay me a whole lot later.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Well, but it also goes to the price of breach, still at this point, the price of compromise at a decent sized company. What is it? It's like over $3.5 million. It's around there.
More now.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah. I mean, I can say, I don't know what the exact number is. As far as I know, the total cost of the cleanup from start to end, not including production downtime from it, was in the six figures. Like it hit six figures for them between.
That's
the cost
a cheap
for us
date.
to do
That's McDonald's.
That's a reasonable deal
compared to $9 million.
Yeah.
Or 18 later on.
Yeah, or 18 million, which they said if you didn't pay within 3 days, it doubled to 18 million. So they were really hustling to try and get you to pay it and panic. But yeah, I mean, it's not, obviously cheaper than 9 million. A couple of weeks after this all happened, we still have this managed threat response company kind of digging through the weeds, just making sure everything is cool. They bring up an alert on one of our firewalls that says that it had blocked traffic to a website, and it wasn't. It was not. It was just trash traffic. It was just a connection. It didn't make any sense. So we started looking at it, and the website name was this just giant long gibberish string, but ended in a normal website name. And this server that we found that was making these requests was making hundreds of them a second, hundreds of requests to different sites, slightly different sites.
So it was like denial of service attack?
It was data egress by DNS.
Wow, you're gonna have to explain that to me.
So to speak English, so data egress or data exfiltration.
No, I get that. So they were actually moving data through those gibberish URLs?
Yeah, so the thing with the whole extortion stealing data thing, so if you have a company and your firewall is super locked down, but you still need to try and get data out, one of the ways that you can do that is by taking the data, encrypting it, or packing it into code, base 64 code technically, probably, but basically just encoding it in a way that it's a little bit more portable, splitting it up into thousands and thousands of little strings, and then making a request for a website name with that string. So when you type in www.google.com, your computer talks to another computer that says, hey, what's this address? And that computer talks to another computer, eventually gets to the computer that owns that address, says, oh, it's this number. When you make a request to a server for an address you've never been to before, that request bubbles all the way back up to that originating server. So what they're doing is they're taking this encoded data, they're making a really long name out of it, and then they're requesting that name. So when they request the name from that computer, it goes to the server. Server doesn't know it. Goes to the router or whatever, doesn't know it. On and on and on and up. And then eventually their server that they own and control gets that request and now has that data.
That is a really elegant way to explain.
Is that as elegant as it sounds?
It's super. I was shocked. I had heard of this, but in the perspective of like stealing intellectual property from multi-billion-dollar organizations, not just trying to extort some smaller, organization. This is some pretty high-level attack mechanism to see used, and the only reason that we found out is that the firewalls that we had tracked those types of requests and were able to block them based on their apparent nastiness.
Like the digital David Niven sort of Pink Panther thing happening with you there.
Do you think this was like a dress rehearsal before the attack on the pipeline?
I think I'm pretty sure the pipeline was, I think it's the inverse. I think that this company was the target company, target size of company, scale of company. And I think the pipeline attack was them tripping over themselves, tripping over their own good luck on the way out of the Cave of Wonders, because just based on the amount of attention that it got and how quickly they folded afterwards, they obviously didn't want that. They wanted to make money, not get attention.
Do you think Darkside actually folded?
No, they just became some other group. They break up, and
the timing seemed a little bit convenient. Of we're suddenly on everyone's radar. We quit, bye, and then
That's interesting to me. So the Colonial, I said colon pipeline, the Colonial Pipeline, that hack was, you think, perhaps not an intentional get, almost like if you're fishing for bluefish and you hook a great white shark, you're stuck with the fish that's on your line, even though you're not equipped to handle it.
Yeah. That's been what I suspect has happened.
Before you wrap it up, I got a question. So, Adam.
Yes.
Adam B, not Adam L. Adam. Cue the Jeopardy clock. Should paying a ransom be illegal?
No, I don't think so. There are times when that's all you can do. We had a client that left us because we were too expensive, called us back a few months ago. They got hit. They ended up paying, they negotiated, ended up paying some percentage of what the original ransom was because their newest backups were 6 months old. And everything newer than that had been encrypted because they didn't have the right policies set on their servers. So they ended up paying the ransom to get some of their data back. It didn't actually end up working out too well for them because the decryption software was so slow, it was faster to just rebuild the machine. So other than for some of the data on the servers, they just ended up rebuilding it.
Well, that is one of the lessons that we've heard from a lot of people, and that is it's not just about backup. It's about how robust is the backup. In other words, how fast can you get your systems back up and running again? And you need to test to find that out.
An untested backup doesn't exist. That is the truism. If you haven't tested it, it doesn't exist. But yeah, I don't think it should be illegal.
Okay. Second question.
Go ahead. Sorry. No,
I got another question. Ready? This is a yes or no too. Should a ransom payment be tax deductible?
No. You screwed up. Pay for the taxes.
Okay.
The IRS will love you for that.
Ding, ding, ding.
Matter of fact, they're going to send you a special refund. They'll send you a thank you for helping us protect our economic impact.
No, that was clear as day. We got our answer. That was a no. That was not a maybe. That was a nuh-uh.
No.
Anyway, Adam, this has been awesome, really. We could go on for hours. We probably will go on for hours. But we've taken far too much of your time. We have lowered your digital property values, and we apologize for that. And anyway, we really thank you and so much appreciate the fact that you were interested in coming on and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us.
Well, I really enjoyed coming on. And being able to kind of talk about some of these experiences. And, if you're a business owner, you don't have to be the example here. Pay attention.
That's it. You don't want to be the poster child.
And no tax deduction for you.
No.
Hey, Adam. I like that Adam a lot.
There's so many atoms in so little time. You know, if you think about it, our producer, Andrew Stephen, is the man with two first names.
Yes.
And now you had two people, Adam and Adam, who are the men with the first names.
Oh my gosh. And you know, that reminds me of the world's oldest and shortest poem. Do you know it?
Ants, Adam had 'em?
Well, I believe it's actually called Fleas.
Please, Adam had 'em.
So, is it true? Do you? Anyway, he was cool. I thought that was great. How about you?
Loved it. Travis?
Agreed. Yeah, he seemed like a really good guy and definitely knew his stuff. So.
Man, that DNS exfiltration thing was cool.
Yeah, I need to look up more about that. That sounded really fascinating in a terrifying way.
Yeah, I'm sure Adam's been exfiltrating all of our stuff via DNS this whole time, and we had no idea.
It's completely exfiltrated now.
Oh, man. So, Adam, I noticed that there's a few new ratings on Apple Podcasts for What the Hack with Adam Levin. I assume you just went out and bought a few Apple new phones and got different IP addresses and you put those there? Or was that actual?
No. As a matter of fact, there were kind souls who actually listened to my plea, loved my song.
Kind soul?
I'm getting thousands of email from people going, I love your song. I love it. So
someone did recently say, I think Adam Levin is the best thing since sliced bread and I can't get enough of them. Did you see that review?
Well, that's a whole different kind of message, if you know what I mean.
Anyway, listen.
I've been watching Pam and Tommy. Come on, I know.
All right, so listen. If you like the show, go on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and give this podcast 5 stars. It really helps people find the show, and we want people to find the show because we're trying to get the word out that you don't have to get got.
Also, thanks to the scam subreddit for letting us put the word out for looking for guests.
Yeah, Reddit, thank you. What the Hack with Adam Levin is a production of Loud Tree Media.
It's produced by Andrew Stephen, the man with two first names.
You can find us online at loudtreemedia.com and on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Adam K. Levin.
Behind every great meal is a person with a story to tell. Hear them on Culinary Characters Unlocked, the podcast that reveals the lives behind the food. Hosted by me, David Page, Emmy Award-winning journalist and creator of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, as I talk with everyone from culinary legends to mom-and-pop standouts about the creativity, grit, and passion that shape the food we love. Follow Culinary Characters Unlocked on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Behind every empire are the people history tried to forget. Lost Roman Heroes tells the stories of the remarkable characters who shaped Rome from its mythical beginnings to its final fall.
Each episode blends armchair storytelling, sharp historical insight, and a bit of humor to bring these lost figures to life. From generals to scientists, from rebels to empresses, from priests to politicians, these lost Roman heroes have one thing in common.
They stood up for civilization when the bad guys threatened, and in doing so, they changed the course of human history. If you're into history that's vivid, surprising, and deeply human, this show's for you.